So I'm a spider. So what? This is a long time coming. This is my review of this series. Gonna be a lot to talk about here, but let's jump into it. So I'm a Spider So What is a 24 episode series that aired in the winter and spring 2021 anime season. It is a series that follows a girl named Kumiko and also a group of other students who have all been transported to another world. In this other world, they're not just kind of put into a body or they don't keep their selves when they go to this other world. They're actually reborn in this world with their own families scattered around this kingdom, and they're all raised in different settings. And a lot of the focus that we have in this series is on Kumiko, who in the previous world was kind of an outcast, bullied a little bit. She kind of just kept to herself and read her books. But at some point, when she's reincarnated in this world, she's reincarnated as a spider. And she's in the deepest labyrinth that they kind of have in this area. And she's kind of forced to have to survive and level up and get stronger and just try not to die because this dungeon, this labyrinth that she's in is very, very dangerous. And again, on the other side of the battlefield, we kind of more so focus on Shun, who is this boy that is the brother of the hero of this world. And he's kind of raised in a more kind of royal noble family. So things are kind of nice for him. He kind of trains under this academy and gets stronger as he goes along. And every now and then, him along with some other students that are with him are greeted by their teacher, who is also in this other world. And she is an elf that is kind of going around and trying to find all the other students to kind of bring them to safety. And as the story goes along, you kind of learn about the current demon lord that's in the area and their moving army. You have elements of certain other students who kind of get a little bit hot-headed with their new world and thinking that they're supposed to be the hero of this particular world. Again, Kumiko's rise to power, or at least surviving and getting more powerful. And the skill system that's in this world, that's kind of a more of the interesting element of this world, and the idea that people, as they, do things, are gaining skills and they're getting more powerful. And you quickly realize that the reincarnates that are in this world, that have been reborn in this world, gain skills a lot faster than normal people in this world, almost giving them a special element to themselves that makes their ability to rise up in the ranks and get stronger a little more easier for them. So yeah, my thoughts on So I'm a Spider So What. This is going to be a very difficult review for me to do. I don't normally like to do reviews where I'm just bashing something. I don't really find any kind of benefit to that to people that are viewing this. So I guess I'll get the negatives out of the way really quickly and kind of move on. First of all, Penzi, who did the animation work on this series, did a terrible job. This is not a visually pleasing show. Now, granted, there's going to be a lot of credit given to them and their work with Kumiko herself. A lot of her side of the story is done through full CGI, which Penzi is known for doing. Of course, for those that don't know, they did the recent Berserk work, and similar to that recent Berserk work, you kind of have that element where most of the main characters, especially Guts himself, is fully CGI, and a lot of his combat is done through CGI work. And then every now and then you would get these side characters that would come in that don't really have much time on the scene, would be done in 2D because they don't want to render a character in order to actually put them in the story. And that's a similar case here, as a lot of the action is done on Kumiko's side, so she's done in full CGI work, and her kind of action scenes are pretty well done. Now, granted, I'll make an argument against any of the other monsters that she fights. It seems like they just kind of take assets from other people's works and just throw them into the series because they don't really match the styling of the series. Sometimes being a little bit overly detailed, or just the texture work done on the actual creatures aren't really matching the style of the series itself. And like I said, anytime it's over on the other side of the battlefield, where it's more of the other students that are more human, you kind of have this issue where a lot of their animation is just kind of not really there. Most of the scene style choices, even the directorial work on the scenes themselves, are very difficult to really grasp what's happening in the scene, because most of the cuts are really to really close up visuals of characters and sliding stills. And even though I can give it a pass as long as the story is good, there's an argument to be made that if you can't tell where people are placed in a room or on a battlefield, it's kind of hard to tell what is happening, and thus what significance is happening in the scene. And one huge point where we have a lot of the characters fleeing from the castle, a lot of stuff's happening. A lot of very crucial stuff is happening. and you just can't really tell what's happening. And that's the difficulty that you end up facing, is what actions the characters take in a particular scene are technically a huge part of the story. And if you can't tell, the story's not there. So yeah, one really big negative the series does get is that it's just very poorly animated. It's not good. A huge detriment to this series was in the animation. I think there's a lot of people out there that would probably have enjoyed this series more, including myself, if the animation was just good. Just give us a decent and good animation, and it would probably have been a lot more enjoyable. As for the story itself, I really enjoyed a lot of aspects of this story. I think a lot of my enjoyment came from the mystery of the series, because it really does seem like having this story told from two different perspectives gave it a little bit of an interesting twist. Now, granted, for a lot of people, and including myself, there was a struggle with the idea of even caring about the human side of things, because, I mean, the joke that I make is pretty much, you have Kumiko's side of the story, which is her getting stronger, and the zaniness of the seiyuu behind Kumiko, who is Aoyuki. Aoyuki is a fantastic seiyuu, and she really did bring this character to life. Her over-the-top zaniness, her just the personality she gave Kumiko the spider was something that took this character to the next level. While on the other side of the whole story, with the human side of things, it was more just this adolescence Game of Thrones that just I didn't really care much about. It's just a bunch of kind of teenagers whining about, and it's funny because it's a contrast thing. You have on this side Kumiko striving to survive, and she's struggling, she's nearly dying, and she's trying to pull out from this hole. And then you would jump over this side, you'd have these angsty teens just whining about dumb stuff. And so it does kind of, it's a detriment to itself. And I know the contrast is there for a reason, but the contrast kind of makes you go, why do I care about these people? They're not in trouble here. There's no problems here. Now, granted, on the human side of things, that's where you're getting a lot of the explanation of things. You're getting an explanation of the world, what's happening. But in the grand scheme of things, it's like, why do I care about this? This doesn't make any sense. Why would I care about this? But even still, for myself, with the first core of this series, I was really kind of struggling getting through it, just because I got tired of the Kumiko stuff. As much as I love Aoyuki, and I love her voice work that she did on this, and the caricature that she created in this spider, it was still a struggle for me, because at some point, you're going through an entire 12 episodes of just her leveling up and trying to kill things over and over again. It gets repetitive. And so I was like, at some point in the first half, I'm like, okay, I don't care about Shun and the other people over here, and Kumiko is doing nothing but leveling, and that's getting kind of repetitive. When are you going to bring this together, or when are you going to do something interesting with this? And I think it wasn't until we had the Demon Lord kind of show up that things started getting interesting again. And the big question that came up at that point was, well, what is these two separate stories, and how are they going to end up interweaving? How can these two come together? The mystery of the kind of information they would leave on Kumiko's side of the story that would eventually get into the hands of Shun's party, the human side of things, those elements were interesting. And that's where a lot of the mystery of this world really started hitting me. I did like seeing how these two sides were affecting each other, and eventually how they would end up connecting. Those were the interesting elements of the story. Unfortunately, what we did get for explanation of these two sides, and what we did get of that connection at the end of it, I will admit are pretty underwhelming. I wasn't too impressed. It was unfortunate we had some certain aspects of this connection that I felt were a little too easy. Like I was expecting something cooler, and what happened in the end was the most basic. That's the best way I can explain without spoiling things. It was the most basic choice, and I was underwhelmed by that. So I don't know. I struggle so much with this series. I think it does have some interesting elements with the world itself. I like the mechanics of the skills and the systems they put in play. I think Kumiko is fantastic. I love Aoyuki. A lot of the characters they start revealing later on, like Sophia, were fantastic. Certain characters get left behind that I thought would be more interesting, like Yuri. I did enjoy the teacher story. I thought it was fantastic. Hugo, I think, was a huge stain on the series, and I just did not care whatsoever with him. Ariel and the Demon Lord, that stuff was interesting. There's a lot of interesting elements. There's a lot of interesting mechanics within this world, and I like the storytelling between the two of them. But unfortunately, each individual side, for the most part, were kind of a letdown and at times boring. And I think a lot of my enjoyment of the series, even during that time, was speculation that, yes, some of them turned out interesting in the end, but some were underwhelming. So it is very much a huge mixed bag. I will say the idea of this series getting a second season, I don't know. I think everything that I've seen doesn't seem like it was a popular series, and I understand why. Because even for myself, it was a struggle to get through just based on the animation itself and the presentation of the story. But the big question really comes is if there was a second season, I don't know that I'd want to watch it. I am invested at this point. I do want to see more of Kumiko's story. But at the same time, it's one of those things, if Middle Pinsey touches this second season, I'm gonna be very upset. They would have to give it to another studio that would give it more proper care. And that's the struggling thing in the end. It's like, I don't think the story's bad. I just think the studio did not present it well. I don't think the director and the screenwriter presented it well enough. And that's the unfortunate thing, is I think it was done wrong. And so it is one of those ones where I kind of wonder, should I just go ahead and jump in the source material just to see if I can get a better story there? Or if this story was told properly, just not well enough visually. But yeah, that's my review on Soma Spider So What. Very much a mixed bag, but I think if you enjoy kind of speculating on a series and getting that little mystery in there, I think it's a very enjoyable series. If not for Kumiko alone, I think, like I said before, Aoyuki and Kumiko made this series the enjoyment that it was, and without her, and I would even argue without Aoyuki, I don't think Kumiko would have been a fun character to really kind of keep it driving forward. But she was there, and she did carry this series for a long time. So hats off to Aoyuki for carrying a series. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Soma Spider So What, the 24-episode series that aired winter and spring of 2021. If you like this video, please leave a like down below. Comment, let me know what you thought of the series. Subscribe if you haven't already. I say comment down below to let me know what you thought. A lot of people have already let me know quite a bit about their thoughts of this series. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and y'all take care.